Apple's new iPads are here, and if you're thinking about picking up the new M4 iPad Pro or the M2 iPad Air, then you probably want to migrate from an existing device. So in today's video, I'm going to show you step by step everything there is to know about migrating from an old iPad to one of the new ones. I'm going to cover the things you should do before you even start, the different methods for actually doing the migration, some issues you might run into, and about how long you should expect it to take. So grab your iPads, take some notes, and get ready to see everything you need to know about migrating from an old iPad to a new one. So for these demonstrations, I'm going to be going from my old M1 iPad Pro 13-inch to the new 13-inch M4 iPad Pro in space black, which this thing is super awesome, and I can't wait to tell you more about that. But if you have any questions, let me know below. Now, there are two ways to migrate data from one iPad to the other. The first is via direct connection, where they talk directly to each other. The second is via iCloud backup. These two migrations are just slightly different, and they each have their own pros and cons, so let me tell you about the two of them real quick. With a direct transfer migration from iPad to iPad, the two iPads will link together via Wi-Fi in their own connection and move gigabytes of data or whatever you have from one iPad to the other. And the upside to that is that you don't need to have a really fast internet connection to be able to download a whole bunch of data from iCloud to your new iPad. But the downside to that is that during that whole migration process, both of these iPads will be locked out. You won't be able to use either one of them until all of the data is migrated over. And that can be a significant amount of time depending on how much data you have on your old iPad. If you go with the process of restoring from an iCloud backup, you will be able to start using your iPad quicker because it will get the initial iPad set up with the regular apps and then start downloading all the apps and data from the backup in the background, even though you are already using your iPad. That is usually my preferred method moving from iPad to iPad because it's quicker for me using my 1 gigabit internet connection than it is moving the data directly from iPad to iPad. Of course, if you don't have a really fast internet connection, that might not be the best option. But whatever migration path you choose, there are a couple things you should do on the old iPad first. On your old iPad, you want to verify the backup settings and how much storage is being used on your old iPad. We'll start with how much storage is being used. To do that, we'll go to Settings, we'll click on General, and then click on iPad Storage. Here you'll see a breakdown of all of the data stored on this iPad. Right now you can see I'm using 150 of 256 gigabytes on this iPad. Now, why is that important? Because if you're moving to an iPad that doesn't have as much storage as your old one, then you won't be able to move everything over. With this M1 iPad being 256 gigs and the M4 being 512, I won't have any issues with storage space moving from the old one to the new one. But if you're going from a 512 to a 256 or a 256 to a 64, you're going to have issues unless you remove some data potentially. And to do that is really easy. For example, if I don't want to move 30 gigs of Call of Duty data, I just tap on it and I tap on Delete App and it will remove that data. Almost all of this data is just downloaded maps and other things for the game, which will be re-downloaded again once you play the game on the new iPad. So you don't need to move that data over. Another thing to look for is files on your iPad. So depending on if you're storing files on your iPad or certain apps that store files directly on the iPad for things like DaVinci Resolve or whatever, you can go in here and delete these files as well. So I have a temp folder where I store things that I mess around with every now and then. I have some video files on here. I can just delete these video files because I don't need to move them over. After going through all of the data on your iPad and when everything looks good the way you want it, next thing you want to do is actually verify the backups on iCloud. To do that, you're going to go up to your name up top, scroll down and tap on iCloud, and then tap on iCloud Backup. Here you're going to see the status of your backups of this device. So right now I am backed up and my most recent backup was today, just a couple of hours ago. So I am good, but it's always good to just go ahead and do another one just in case right before you're doing a migration. If you want to see what is included in that backup, you tap on your device down here and it's going to load all the things that are included in that backup. So this is a good place to check for things that you might have deselected previously. So for example, I usually don't back up Final Cut Pro projects because I back those up in other ways. I don't need those going to the cloud. But in this example, I want to back it up because I want to be able to use the iCloud backups to restore everything. Now, what if you don't have an iCloud backup or you don't have enough iCloud storage? Well, Apple actually can help you out with that. If you're using an iPhone or an iPad that you need to transfer or migrate to a new device, you can actually get some free iCloud storage during this process. And it's simple to do. All you do is go to Settings and you go to General and you go down to Transfer or Reset iPad. And here you have the option to do a process which will prepare you for your new iPad or iPhone. And it essentially gives you the option, the ability to back up this device to Apple for free until you migrate to a new device. So for example, I can use iCloud to back up this iPad for free, which I can then use to restore onto this iPad. Apple allows you to have a backup for up to 21 days on iCloud for free when you're in the process of migrating to a new device. So it kind of walks you through the process to do a free backup. We'll tap on Get Started, and it's going to say, do you want to turn on iCloud backups? I want to say yes, turn on iCloud backups. And now it's actually just starting the backup for me in the background. So normally you would start this maybe before you actually go pick up your iPad, because it can take some time to do the initial backup, especially if you're backing up something like 40 gigabytes. And now we can start the actual setup process on the new iPad. And now you can actually just go ahead and boot up or wake up your new iPad. You'll get the hello logo and swipe up. Now, the first thing it's going to do is ask you a couple of questions. It's going to ask you, what's your preferred language? What's your region? And what's your Wi-Fi password? And even your Apple ID information. The good news is you don't have to do any of that manually. Since we're migrating from an iPad to an iPad, all we need to do is bring an existing iPad next to it while it's in this setup mode and hit unlock to continue. What's going to happen is this iPad is going to share all of that basic information with the new one. It's going to share the Wi-Fi information, the language, the region, and even the Apple ID. And to do that, this projects this little orb thing that's making sure that you actually want to move from device to device. So you take your old iPad, scan the orb on the new iPad, and it starts transferring that basic information over for you automatically. Remember that direct Wi-Fi connection I talked about earlier? This is how it starts. So it's going to ask you who you're setting the new iPad up for. It's going to be for myself. I'll tap on Get Started. And the new iPad is going to ask for the PIN number of the old iPad, and all of this together verifies the two devices, they belong to me, I'm in control of both, and nobody's trying to do something wonky. This is what I want to happen. So I'll type in that passcode. The new iPad is connected to Wi-Fi. We did not need to answer basic information, and it's talking to Apple to actually activate the iPad. Now it's asking me if I want to move over my eSIM from the old cellular iPad to the new cellular iPad. If you have Wi-Fi iPads, you're not going to get this option. And I'm actually using a third-party NVMe service, so this is probably not going to work, so I'll cover this in another video. For now, I'll just hit Setup Later in Settings. And now it's asking if I want to do a software update. When Apple ships a new product, sometimes there's a software update that's needed right away, and you should probably go ahead and do the install. To be able to migrate from an old iPad to a new iPad, the new iPad has to have the same version or newer version of the software as the old one, otherwise the migration won't happen. If you know for sure that your old iPad has an older version of iOS than your new one, then you can probably skip it for now. But I know that I'm using 17.4.1 on the old iPad, and I don't know what this version is, but I know that it wants to update to 17.5. So I'm going to go ahead and do the software update, which can take a little bit of time to download, run the installation, reboot a couple of times, and get us back to the configuration. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. It wants me to accept the terms and conditions of the update, which is fine, but you can see that it actually canceled the migration process on the old iPad. So we'll go ahead and hit agree over here, cancel that, and we'll come back to this iPad once the software update is complete. While I wait 10 or 15 minutes for this update to complete, let me tell you how today's sponsor, CalDigit, can make your new iPad even better. The new iPads are so powerful and you can do more with them now than ever. But with the help of CalDigit, you can actually get more things done. The CalDigit Soho is the perfect companion for the new iPads, whether at home, the office, or on the go. It has all the ports you will need for connecting devices, a display, and power, plus exporting or backing up files to external storage. So say you're working on a new video editing project on iPad. First, you will need to import your footage from a camera using the SD card slots on the front of the Soho, which works with regular and micro SD cards. Next, you can easily connect an external mouse to help make the editing process faster. Then when your edit is complete, you can connect an external SSD to the Soho and export your video directly to the SSD, or even export an archive of the entire project at up to 10 gigabits per second. You can also copy other files and data to an external disk using the iPad share sheet or from the Files app. So if you want to get the most out of your new iPad and easily connect devices and external storage at the same time, check out the CalDigit Soho today using the links below. And my thanks to CalDigit for sponsoring this video. Okay, so the update's complete, and now we can start the process again. Appearance, what size do we want the display to be? I prefer default. Continue. And now it's saying quick start. Do we want to use another device? Yes, we want to use this iPad to do the initial configuration. So sometimes you might have to put this guy to sleep and then wake him back up. There you go. Now you get the unlock to continue. Do the scan again. Yes, it's pretty dumb that you have to do this twice. I don't know why they don't just start with the software update. Who's this iPad for? Me. Passcode of the original iPad. Set up eSIM. We'll do it later. This data and privacy screen says Apple collects certain data, but you can learn more if you want to know more about it. Continue. And now the new iPad wants to configure Face ID. If you've configured Face ID before, it's the exact same. We'll tap on continue. And because the new M4 iPad Pro has the camera on the horizontal side, we'll turn the iPad horizontally, tap on get started, and just put your face in the frame, turn, and move your head in a circle. Then it just kind of maps out your face. And we'll go ahead and do that twice. Look up, down, and around. Fill in the circles, or the green things, whatever they are. Face ID is now set up. We can transfer the data via iCloud backup or direct iPad to iPad transfer. Now I do actually want to show you both options, starting with the iCloud download. I want to show you what that process looks like to select that backup and then to actually do the restore and see how fast you get into your iPad while everything else downloads in the background after. Then I'm going to show you a sped up version of doing a direct transfer from iPad to iPad just to show you how long that version actually takes. Of course, either of those could be different based on your internet speed or which iPad you're moving from or to. So we're going to tap on download from iCloud. And now it's going to set up the Apple ID, which takes a crazy amount of time, more than you would expect. Sometimes it's 3 minutes, sometimes it's 15 minutes. So again, we just have to wait while this iPad signs into my Apple ID. So that took about 5 or 6 minutes, and now it's just confirming we're going to migrate from iCloud backup. We're going to copy some of the settings from the old iPad, including Siri and screen time, and some of the wallet items. We'll go ahead and tap on continue. It's going to ask if you want to update your iPad automatically. I prefer to update on my own, so I only download automatically. Location services, yes, I would like those on because lots of apps actually use it. Again, asking about eSIM, I will set up later. Now it wants to add my cards to Apple Wallet, so I can enter the 3-digit code and then that will add the card to Apple Wallet on this iPad. And if you look over here, the old iPad is actually doing an automatic backup again to make sure the iCloud backup has the most recent up-to-date information before downloading it to the new iPad. That's a pretty nice feature to make sure you have the latest and greatest information and you get everything. And now the new iPad is just waiting for the old iPad to complete the backup before starting the restore process. And now the restore from iCloud has started, so we'll go ahead and start a timer. I want to see how long it takes us to get to a usable desktop. So we'll go ahead and see what this timer says at the end of this. And then we'll also do the same with restoring from device to device. And there we go. So to do the iCloud restore for this iPad took 3 minutes and 26 seconds to do the initial setup like I said before. And you can see all the apps are kind of grayed out because they're going to start downloading in the background without you needing to do anything. But look, you can actually use your iPad after 3.5 minutes of starting the restore process. And if we want to see the restore process, click on settings and you can see restore in progress, 87 gigabytes for that backup. That's crazy. That's a lot of data, but you don't have to wait. You can start using your iPad right now, surf the web, set up email, prioritize specific apps to download first so you can use them, and everything else will just happen automatically. So that's how you migrate from one iPad to another using iCloud backups. Now I'm going to wipe out this iPad and show you how long it's going to take to do the transfer via direct Wi-Fi connection. So we're going back in time and now we're going to select the option to do the direct transfer. This is where that oddly long Apple ID sign-in process starts, and then you configure the location settings and your Apple Wallet info. Then the actual migration finally starts. Throughout the migration, you will see that the estimated time changes rapidly, going from a couple of minutes to over an hour, then back down to just a couple of minutes within a matter of seconds. But it does seem to be going faster than I expected. And it looks like from starting the migration to actually getting to the desktop took about 24 minutes, which is a lot less than I actually expected it to take. Usually the direct Wi-Fi connection is not that fast, so it must be the better wireless connections in these two iPads. As you can see, the applications are still downloading in the background as expected. But if we go into the iPad settings and go look at the iPad storage, we can see a lot of data was transferred over. So those are the two methods to be able to transfer all of your data from an old iPad to a new iPad. And in the past, I would have recommended the iCloud download or iCloud restore option because it was the fastest way to be able to start using your iPad, and as long as you had fast internet, all of that stuff would download in the background, no problem. But I have to say that the direct transfer of 24 minutes was not that bad, and maybe actually give it a shot because it seems to be better than it used to be. But I hope that this video was helpful and maybe it helped you get past some of those weird things you run into, like having to do a software update or restart the process or whatever. If so, let me know in the comments down below. And if you're thinking about getting one of these new M4 iPad Pros, which are super thin by the way, and awesome, and the new Magic Keyboard, there are 6 things you should know before you buy it. Check out that video right over there. Hit the thumbs up button if you liked it, hit subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next time.